Be bold. Be heard. Welcome to Unmute Your Mic with your host, Jessica Bell. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Unmute Your Mic.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Unmute Your Mic. My name is Jessica Bell. I am your host from Kansas City, Missouri, as always. And I'm so excited for the new series that I'm starting in September. This entire month of September, we'll be featuring hometown heroes. And so I really wanted to pay homage to some people in my city, Kansas City, who are doing things to impact the community. So often we feel as if somebody from outside of our city has to come in and make something great happen. And so I think it is great to shine a light on people who are really doing the groundwork. And so I'm so excited for this guest that I have today. Booker, thank you so much for agreeing to be on my podcast. If you could just introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you.
Okay. So look, so grateful to be on your show. My name is Booker Fleming, and so I'm a music producer here in Kansas City, Missouri, and I've been working with some of the great talent here in Kansas City. I started off living in Tonganoxie, Kansas. Okay, so if you don't know where that's at, it's okay. It's a small little country town between it's Leavenworth County before you get to Lawrence. Anyways, grew up on a farm. Okay, cattle, and was picking peas and collard greens as a kid. Don't bring back memories. Anyways, God sent me to Kansas City, Missouri, and when he did, he told me to start my first choir when I was 21 years old. And I did that. I didn't know anybody. And that was a success. And now currently I am the music choir director at Kansas Christian College. And I also run my own choir called Next Generation KC. And we're doing awesome things here in Kansas City, Missouri. And outside of that, I'm also a personal trainer. And I do a lot of different things. So, but yeah, that's me.
Well, yeah, it definitely sounds like you have your hand in a lot of different pots. So how do you go from picking peas on a farm to being a choir director? Like, how did that happen? Were you singing while you were picking the peas? Like, what was going on?
No, okay. So as a young kid, we grew up in Des Moines, Iowa. My dad was a choir director. And so he had his own choir. So I actually started out as a young kid just kind of watching my dad do it. And then what he did was he taught me how to play his songs on the piano. And so the first day, I guess one of his musicians said, "Hey, Booker, come up here and play with me." And so I started playing with him as a little kid. And then he got up off the piano and let me do it myself. And I'm like, "No, stay back at the piano. Like, please don't leave me by myself." But I got through the whole song and everybody clapped for me and I was hooked. I was like, man, I got to do this. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how my musical background got there. But my mom grew up in Tonganoxie, Kansas, where my grandfather came from Arkansas, bought some land. And so he put a house right there on the land. And that's where I grew up from 10 years old on to I graduated. And, he taught us how to get up early in the morning, feed he had pigs, he had cattle. And so I was just like a country boy. I would run on gravel with no shoes on. Okay. Yeah, I was country. Yeah. And so when I got to Kansas City, Missouri, I'm like, man, all these lights and traffic. And I'm like, geez. And so, but God, what I really believe is that usually when God wants to do something great through your life, he'll raise you out, he'll seclude you so that you don't get the mindsets of everybody else. You're not tainted by the things that everybody else is doing. And so it was like I was sheltered. So then when I came to Kansas City, Missouri, I didn't think like everybody else. I didn't do the same things as everybody else. And people would be like, man, you're different. Yeah, it's because God set me apart for what he wanted me to do. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for Tonganoxie, Kansas.
I love that. And you brought up a really good point because I definitely believe that when God wants to use you for something that's different, he has to create something kind of different inside of you. If you think and move like everybody else, how can you do something different. Like everything is looking the same and it's kind of like just a carbon copy and everybody's just following everyone else. So I love that you bring that up because I think people who are listening maybe sometimes feel like they're isolated or like, why I don't fit in with people. And I learned a long time ago that that's actually a blessing
Yes.
when you don't fit in because you do get protected from a lot. So I love that kind of started. You don't have the typical story of somebody who does music, like, oh, you have a different background.
Mm.
So one of the reasons I reached out to you too was because I've actually seen the videos on Facebook with, you said Next Generation, correct?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I absolutely love this because it seems like it's a group of like younger people too. And I have a heart for youth. And so that is where my passion is. So what kind of made you start that specifically, like the age group? And just how did you get the ball rolling with that?
Okay. Well, first of all, let me let you know, I can't stand these kids. This is why my hair is out. You know what I'm saying? You're hard to work with. I ain't gonna lie to you. But let me say this. This is what happens, okay? Like, I'm always late for church. Let's just put that out there. I'm always late for church. One day, I wake up early for church. And I'm like, gosh, I got some time on my hands. So I'm like, let me go to the gym and let me go run for a little bit, right? So I hop in my car, get into the car, and anybody that knows me, since I'm a music producer, I don't listen to a lot of music because I'm always creating. And I don't like other people's sound to like taint me. So I don't really listen to a lot of people. So I just stay with myself. But today, in Kansas City, Missouri, 103.3 from Monday through Saturday plays hip hop. And then on Sunday, they designate it to gospel. So I'm traveling down the road. I said, let me turn on 103.3. So I did. And I just was like, is this gospel? Everything was just sounding, I was like, this doesn't sound like gospel. I was like, so the song after song after song, and I sat there and I'm like, God, what is this? Is this music that we're doing for you? And God spoke to me right there in the parking lot. And he said, Booker, the problem with the music is that the artist, they're seeking out producers to produce their music that not only produce for me, but they also produce for the world. And he says, I'm not going to give them my sound because I'm a jealous God. If you want to produce for the world, then do it. But you can't come to me after that and say, God, give me that sound. So he says, that's why there's no anointing. That's why people aren't getting changed. That's why you don't feel any different between you listen to the world music and gospel these days. And he said, Booker, the reason why I'm going to give you my sound is not because you're perfect. It's because you don't produce for the world, but you only produce for me. So I'm going to give you that sound. And so I'm sitting there in the parking lot. I was like, okay, cool. So that night I got home. I went like probably 11, 12 o'clock at night, went at my piano. I said, God, what's the sound? And so I sat there and immediately he gave me the first song. Wrote it down, recorded on my phone. The next day he gave me the next song. And he kept giving me more music, more music. So then I said, okay, well, God, what do you want me to do with this? He says, here in Kansas City, Missouri, there are some young people who have a heart and desire for me, who love me. And I want you to go get them. I want you to bring them all together. And I want you to name it Next Generation KC. When he gave me that, I said, that name's got to be taken. I mean, that's catchy. That's probably taken. So I got my phone. I Googled it. And I said, Next Generation KC, thinking something was going to pop up. Nothing popped up. I said, God, okay, I hear you. I started off with 6 people. And I said, listen, this is what God told me to do. You guys want to do it? Blah, blah. They came together. After we shot our first video, in the 3-4 months, it's grown to almost 30 people. And in that time span, we've been able to release 4 songs, 4 videos throughout social media. And here in 14 days, we have a whole entire album that's going to be released on August 5th to all of Kansas City, and we're having a live listening party. And just mind you, in the group chat we have, somebody put just today before I got on here, they put our very first meeting. And I was like, and somebody wrote at the bottom of it and said, guys, how did we even get here? I was like, I don't know, but it's just God. And so, is the young people hard to work with? Absolutely. Okay. I had hair before this. I'm just saying I had hair. But they have attitude problems. They want this, they want that. They want to know why. What? But you know what? I'm like, I wouldn't trade it for the world. So that's it.
Well, you say that's it, like that was just a little teeny story. Like that is God, that has God's hand all over it. And I think it's beautiful because there's so many moments in that story where you're like, well, God said, and then God said, and then I went to God. And I think that's the biggest part too. Not only was God speaking, but you positioned yourself so that you could receive what it is that he wanted you to do. And because of that, you're getting the blessings and the overflow and how you go from 6 people to 30. And 30, I mean, I work with youth all the time, and 30 youth, yeah, like bald, I understand. Like
Yeah.
because that's it's not easy, but at the same time you're also, I feel like, creating an avenue for them where they could be doing something else other than going to rehearsals or recording an album, or they could be out in the streets, or they could be doing something. And so I think it's great that you kind of stepped in to be that influence for them, and not even just you, but them just seeing your pure obedience to what God has you doing. I think that that's to be applauded. And I'm so excited that we're having this conversation because I will definitely be at the album release party. And what's funny is that I've actually ran into 2 people over the last like 2 weeks or 3 weeks who are a part of. One of them actually worked with me at my job, and she was like, "Yeah, we gotta." I'm sorry.
Who's that?
Sydney.
Sydney's here, getting ready to record on this track. She's about to do an amazing job on it. So
I just think that's so awesome because especially in Kansas City, it's like we're small. Kansas City is very small, but it's big at the same time. And so like when I run into people and I'm seeing these common threads, and I see someone like Sydney who is young and she's so mature and she does have a heart for God, and I know that she's a part of something like this, I'm like, God is really going to use not only her, but the entire group and expand. And so gosh, I'm just so excited. As somebody who loves music and loves youth, and I really am not talented in music whatsoever, like can do nothing regarding music, but I love listening to it. I just am extremely excited for what you have. And so what are some of the other like goals and plans that you have for this group that you got?
You know what? Honestly, I don't have like plans for it because I didn't start it. You know what I'm saying? Like if I started it, I would have plans. Literally, whatever God gives me an idea to do something, I'll just do it. So I don't really have a set goal. I would tell you what I would like to happen is that we begin to travel, begin to tour and go to different churches, and then just show people that there are youth that love God, and it's really big for me because you know what? I'm really big on this, that if you see like Los Angeles, you see places like Texas and Florida, these places have dynamic ministries for youth. But then you come to Kansas City and it's like, what do you have? And I really believe that God was like, hey, you don't have to travel to Texas, to Atlanta to do this. You can have it right here. And so my goal is to build something that's huge right here for the youth, and it not be Kansas City. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to look like Kansas City. I don't want to sound like Kansas City. I want people to look at us and say, you know what? Where does people come from? You know what I'm saying? So that's it.
I love that. I love you saying that you didn't start it. So, and I obviously, clearly, you're a believer, duh. But can I ask you, just on that same wavelength, how did you get to the place where you're being obedient to God? Because I know so many people who have a relationship with God, but when God tells them to do something, if they don't see the next step, they're like, nah, I think I'll just sit right here. So this vision that God gave you, that you decided to say, hey, I'm going to listen to you and move on that. How did you get to that place? How did you build your relationship, close enough with God so that it's kind of like he talks, you listen, and you move?
Okay, so that's a great question. And I'm going to say this. I'm just a natural person that I hate wasting time. Okay? Don't like wasting time. And I usually move faster than a lot of people. So what I'm coming to the conclusion in life is if you don't do what God tells you to do and you do your own thing, then you're wasting time. Point blank simple. You can do whatever you want to do, but at the end of the day, it's not going to work. So what I do is, it's like, God, whatever you're asking me to do, I'm going to do it because I know that everybody has a schedule. Okay. And I'll use this that God showed me one day as a GPS. Okay. You get into your car. There's one day I got into my car and I was coming back from Omaha, Nebraska, because my twin brother lives in Omaha, Nebraska. Okay. What happens is I know that from Omaha to Kansas City, it's a straight shot from 29 highway. Okay. But I did not know how to get to 29 highway. So I put my GPS on. Right. And so I was going through the city and every 2 seconds it said, turn right, turn left, keep straight. Okay. But when I got to I-29, it stopped talking. And so I'm just driving, chilling out. And when I get to St. Joe, it finally starts speaking again. And I was like, I didn't even realize this thing was still on. And what God showed me is that everybody has a destination time. You have to be at a specific time, a place at a specific time. The difference between one level and the next level, the difference between a promotion is just you being at the right place at the right time. And what the enemy does is the enemy knows that he cannot stop the gifts on your life. He cannot stop the purposes that God has for you. The only thing he can do is try to get you to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. He's trying to distract you so that you miss the opportunity. You were supposed to be at this place at this time. So let me bring something in your life to distract you. And what I realized about this is, Jessica, is that as I was traveling from Omaha to Kansas City, I went into a storm. The GPS never told me that. Matter of fact, I went up some hills, went down some hills, and the GPS never said, hey, you're getting ready to go up a hill. And what God told me is that, Booker, that when you first start your walk off with me, I'm going to be talking to you every 2 seconds. Because whenever you start with God, it's like he's always talking to you. But then there comes a time in your relationship with God where God just gets silent. And you think that you're doing something wrong. You're thinking, okay, God, you're not talking to me. There must be something wrong with my relationship. But what God is doing is that he's already prepared you for the storm. He's already prepared you for the ups and the downs. And so when he was talking to me, turn right, turn left. Okay, then the GPS says, you are on the fastest route to your destination, right? You have to understand, Jessica, and everybody else going to be watching this, is that God puts you on a path and you are on the fastest route to that destination. Here's the key. I got hungry on this trip, and there was an exit that had McDonald's. It did. There were some exits that had gas stations. But if I would have hit the exit, I would have hit Kansas City, but not at the right time. Okay? And so what I've learned is the reason why I want to be obedient to God is that God says, look, you are on the fastest route to where I want you to be at. Now, you have the opportunity to take an exit and go do your own thing. You're still probably going to get to what I have for you. But Jessica, let me talk to you. You're doing this podcast. You could be doing God's work, but doing it at the wrong time. You could write a book that's powerful, but write it at the wrong time. You can sing a song that's powerful, but sing it at the wrong time. You can move to another city. You were supposed to be in that city, but you moved at the wrong time. You know what I'm saying? And so what I want to do is when God puts me on a path, I want to say, listen, if God, you told me to do it, let's do it, because I want to get to where you have me to get to on time.
All right. So where do I send my tithes and offerings? Because you just preached an entire message.
Booker T Productions, Cash App.
No, but thank you so much for that, because it is, when people, I think a lot of times we see people's lives and we only see the finished product. So we're like, oh my goodness, look at what he's doing. That's so awesome. I wish God would bless me like that. I wish God would give me an idea like that. And it really all boils down to the obedience and being able to say, God, this is the path you put me on. This is the way you want me to go. And like you said, not letting the enemy trick you with all those side distractions and things that happen that can really delay the things that God has for us. I truly believe that, it's like having those gifts or presents on Christmas Day. And it's like, but you're not even present. You're not sitting even at the tree to open it because you're at somebody else's house. And so I think it is really awesome to know that the youth that are part of this group are under somebody who is obedient to God, because it's the same way he speaks to you about you is the same way he will speak to you about the people that he has entrusted under you. And, even if you're not, quote unquote, maybe their pastor, you are covering them in this sense with this group. And so I think God is definitely, he has his hands on you and on them. And if I could ask you, you mentioned a little bit about there being bumps in the roads, right? And little distractions. So what are some of, and before you got to this point, what are some of the bumps you've hit along the way?
Well, geez. Divorced at 28 years old. Okay. I will tell you that I was married for 7 years. Okay. Started a church. The guy told me to start a church, and marriage was shaky. Had to let go of the church. Was a bad point in my life because I was just like, what else do I do? The church is not working. Marriage is not working. I really, it's the first time in my life I dealt with stress. And I'm gonna tell you this, I didn't think stress was a real thing. Like, people was like, I'm stressed out. I'm like, dude, chill out. You're not stressed. But I was realizing that things were going on my body that I was like couldn't eat, always, feeling sick to my stomach, feeling dizzy, just no sleep. And I was just like, I was always on the go. And I didn't realize, man, you're stressed. And I was like, oh, I am stressed. And it was a really bad time in life. Like, when I look at pictures of myself, like 3 years ago, I'll just be like, it just brings back memories. And so that was definitely a big bump in the road. But outside of that, overcoming that season in my life, it's been really kind of uphill, honestly, Jessica. A lot of you. So.
And that's a blessing. And you're also speaking to somebody who was also divorced at 28. So I understand that season, sadly, but I do. And so I want to ask you, why didn't you quit? Because people have quit for less. So when within you losing things, right? Well, in that season you lost things, and though God has replaced things tenfold, what made you not say, I'm just throwing in the towel? Like, I'm just done. I forget God. I wanted to do a church. It didn't work. I was married, and that didn't happen. That didn't work for me. What made you say, I'm going to keep pushing and keep going?
Knowing and understanding what's inside of me. When I was 18 years old, I went to a service, and this prophet came from Texas. And when I was 18 years old, I played piano for different churches, but I was just trying to be tough. Like, I wasn't the crier. I wasn't the lift your hands person. And out the blue, this pastor called me up. I'm like, oh gosh, just let me be on the piano. Like, and he's like, you come here. I'm like, yes. All right. So I'm like, what am I do? Fall out? Well, I mean, what am I doing? You know what I'm saying? So I get in front of him, and he said, you're going to write music for God that this world has never, ever heard before. It's going to go around the world. And when I heard this, Jessica, I was like, this is the most boringest life I could ever think of. What do you mean I'm going to write songs for God? You know, I'm 18. I'm like, well, that's boring. Thank you. You know, I'm literally like, that sounds boring. You know. And when I got into the car, because I didn't drive, this lady took me, and her husband looked at me through the rear mirror, and he says, you don't believe that, do you? And Miss Giles was like, don't break that boy's heart. He's like, you don't believe that. These prophets be coming in. I could have told you that. You're playing piano. I could have told you that you're going to be writing music. You don't believe that. And something told me, I was like, wait a minute. I probably should listen to this. So I lived life, did my thing. Then all of a sudden, one day, it's a long story, but God turned my life around. He gave me my first song, and then he told me to start my first choir. And when I started my first choir, Jessica, we went to like 60 different churches in like a year. It was crazy. But the big thing about this is it was just amazing that things that happened. And I was going somewhere. I forgot your question, Jessica. What was the question?
Why didn't you quit? And you kind of touched on it, but I was letting you talk because it was good. So
the reason why I don't quit, and I'll tell you something that happened in my life. Okay, after that prophecy came to my life, after God gave me my first song. There's an artist named Carrie Joe. Don't know if you are familiar with it. Okay, I didn't know who she was either way. She's this gospel CCM singer. Anyways, what happens is God gives me the song. I record it, and I wanted to see how my music looked like on like a real music video. So I took her video where she was standing in front of thousands of people, and I played my song and I muted her track so I could play my song and listen to it and see the performance. You know, what was weird is, Jessica, is that my song was totally different from her song. But yet when I played my song and muted her song, everything in my song lined up with her song. Every time the drummer would hit his cymbals, I'd hit my cymbals on the track. In my song, I had a guitar solo. As soon as my guitar solo happened, they zoomed in on the guitar player on her video. And at this time, Jessica, chills. And then when my song ended, I'm telling you, two different songs, totally different. My song ended, I said, open up your mouth and praise God. They zoomed out on the crowd, and their song ended at the same time my song out, and everybody's hands got lifted. I was so spooked, I slammed my laptop. I was like, oh my God, that was weird. You know? But why don't I quit is because I remember those days. I'm like, God, if you spoke those things over my life, it's going to happen. So no matter what happens on the way there, it's going to happen eventually. And so what I would encourage anybody that's going to be watching this is that when things like this happen in your life, remember what God said. Just take time out. What did he say? I don't care how bad it starts to look. Think about what did God say to your life. And I would encourage you, if you don't know your purpose or why you're here, you have to seek God, because there's nothing worse than living life and not knowing why you're here. So, yeah.
Well, that was the perfect way to end this conversation, because I was going to ask you what you would tell somebody who was listening, and you already went there. I am so blessed and honored to have had a conversation with you. I'm so excited for what God is going to continue to do through you, through this young group of women and young men. And I'm so excited to just got to say that I talked to you early on, because I know this is going to be something huge later, and I'll probably have to be like, remember me? Can I get another interview? But I really appreciated talking to you.
Go out to LA and I've got to go through your security to get on your stage. Like, Jessica, you remember me? Like, yeah, you're go ahead. Yeah. So.
I'm sorry, who are you? No, I'm just joking. Well, I really appreciate this conversation. Thank you so much for everything that you are doing. Thank you for everything you are doing in Kansas City and beyond. I love that you said you don't want to look like Kansas City, because I think that is that's impactful within itself, because you don't always want to look like where you came from. I think that once God puts his anointing on something, you and be like, where are you guys from? Like, what? Like, no one has any idea, because you just look like God. You don't look like a specific location. And so I just wanted to, again, like I said, highlight Kansas City, because this is where we're at. And I think that there's some amazing talent and things that are going to be birthed from here. And it is going to look different and sound different and feel different. And so I'm really, really excited for you. I'm thankful for everything that you're doing. You are really keeping these young kids not only out the streets and just from doing recklessness, but you're teaching them how to do something for God at such a young age, that no matter how long they stay a part of your group, they will be impacted forever. And so I thank you again for your obedience.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course, thank you again. And I want to thank everybody for listening to another episode of Unmute Your Mic. I'm going to have all of Booker's information down below, so please stay in contact with him. I'm going to put music videos and everything that they've done, ways that you can support, give. I know firsthand that anything that you do with youth always requires some kind of funds, and so they don't have it. Kids don't have money. So anybody who feels led to give, to donate, pour into, to any capacity, I'm going to put all their information. There's also going to be an article that I'm writing about this interview and about the group. And so it's just going to correlate with these. But I want you guys to check that out as well. I thank you so much again, Booker. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow Unmute Your Mic on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You can listen anywhere that you find a podcast. Don't forget to be bold, be heard, and continue to unmute your mic. Amen. Thank you, Booker.
Thank you, Jessica. See you.
Thank you. I'll be in contact. I'm going to message you just to get like your picture and your bio. And then what I do is I just basically write a version of what we said here, just with some of the questions. Again, anything I do will be sent to you prior. So
good. All right, great. All right. I'll share it whenever I get it. So it was great.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Unmute Your Mic. Be sure to tune in next time when Jessica takes her mic off mute as she continues her journey to find stories that inspire and uplift our communities.